Hello everyone, and welcome to today's open house session on an introduction to the new ClinicalQ Report Writer that the BFE is launching, as well as an update to the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite. My name is John Bale, and you may have heard me before because I tend to pop up a lot when it comes into the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr type of software. Just so you all know, today is meant to be really just an informal session, nice and relaxed, and so I'm going to be showing you guys this new report writer that we have running, as well as some updates to the ClinicalQ software suite. And so as we go along, I'm really happy for any of you to be asking some questions and sending in some comments. It's not meant to be formal. This is just much more of a relaxed and easygoing session. In case some of you have had the joy of meeting me in person at some sort of conference or maybe some sort of smaller scale training, this is what my goofy face looks like, especially when I'm hooked up to a whole bunch of different sensors and there's some brain electrodes up there. I am now the former research manager for the Biofeedback Federation of Europe. As of about 7 months ago, I found some new nice opportunities at Thought Technology, and so this is probably one of the last presentations I will be doing for the Biofeedback Federation of Europe in terms of software projects that I've worked on. This final report writer and update to this ClinicalQ suite are kind of my babies, although I can definitely give most credit for the report writer to Carol Myers and a certain programmer of ours, Mikhail, and a few other people. Oh, and obviously Dr. Swingle, who guided all these projects and things like that. As a quick reminder to you all, oops, let me make this a little bit easier for you to see. There you go. As a quick reminder to you all, you can ask questions, you can send in comments, and I'm very happy to go over those. I'll be looking back at the questions panel as we go through this presentation. If you want to type in a question, you can do so. You just have to go to the GoToWebinar control panel found at the upper right of the monitor, and you can type your questions into the questions box, and I'll periodically see it and I'll identify and let you know what that answer is. Alternatively, if you would prefer to verbally ask me a question instead of using that type in feature, then you can go to this raise hand icon that's an open palm found on the side of the GoToWebinar control panel, again towards the upper right. If you click that, it just lets me know that you want to verbally ask a question, and so I can just unmute you at the right time. I'll let you know, and then you can go ahead and ask me that. Typically, when I point out this feature to people, they start playing with it immediately. I will choose to ignore your open hands if you have one right now, because that means you're just testing it out. As one little thing, I just want to make sure that you all can in fact hear me and you can interact with me. So I want you to go find that questions tab found in the GoToWebinar control panel and just type in a question saying, hi, I can hear you, hello, let me know what your favorite food is in case you're eating lunch or dinner. I just want to make sure that this line of communication is open because I like interaction, and it makes it a little bit easier than just having to listen to my voice the whole time. Please speak slowly. Okay, I will do my best to speak slowly. One of the things that happens is that I get very excited, so I have a tendency to speak fast, so I will try to slow down my speech. Hello, Nancy, to you too. And okay, only a few comments, some more people playing with the open hand icons. Excellent, excellent, good. So at least I'm sure that you can hear me. Some more questions. Someone from David from South Wales and Afshan. Hello to you too, both of you. Okay, so what is this ClinicalQ Report Writer? Well, the idea for this product, which I haven't really described to you yet, but the idea is that many people have been following Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment method. And if they follow his assessment method as he's described in a few of his books, as well as many online presentations and in-person presentations, you get a result where you're looking at a lot of different statistics that come from this assessment. And from my perspective, since I'm used to looking at this, I can make sense of these numbers, and I'm used to seeing these interpretations on the side and knowing how to move forward with interpretation and knowing what to discuss with the client and things like that. Now, for clinicians who perhaps are not so used to this, when they get these results out, they're just not sure how to describe it to a client or how they move forward with that and how to make sense of it and make sure the client understands what just happened or what their results are in a way the client is satisfied with this and is looking forward to continue a treatment and coming back to the clinic and things like that. So the ClinicalQ Report Writer itself was a solution where we can take the results that you get by following Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment, and where this report writer takes those results, analyzes the numbers, and presents back to a really easy to read client report that you as a clinician or as a health practitioner, you can read yourself, and it explains in simple words what the results of the assessment are, and it's actually a report that you can hand to your client immediately. And so they can read this, and now they understand what the assessment was that just happened, what statistics we looked at, and what is the result and how that's interpreted into their normal life. This ClinicalQ Report Writer, as you might guess, because I put a little internet link at the bottom, is an online program. And so the idea is that anyone in the world who is following Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment method can actually take the results from their individual assessments with the client, and they can put it into this website, and they can immediately get that client report and that client summary right back so that they can read it and they can hand it to their client. And that makes this assessment treatment method that much better and that much easier for an average person to understand, and that much easier to follow up with training and actually going through the full program. So if I didn't describe this clearly, I made some fun little pictures because everyone likes pictures. The idea is that you record your ClinicalQ assessment using any technology. It does not have to be thought technology equipment. It can be BrainMaster. It can be whoever. As long as you are following his ClinicalQ assessment, then it's okay. So you record that assessment and you get these numbered results. You can then go to the ClinicalQ Reporter website. You can enter in certain statistics that we ask for, and then you can immediately obtain an explanation of those results for you and your clients. This explanation is actually sent to your email as a PDF, and so once you enter in the numbers and click Generate Report, it gets sent to your email, and so you can print that out immediately, or you can just show it on screen if that's what you prefer. I'm going to show you guys an example of actually what this looks like, in fact, what the website looks like as well, before we jump back to this PowerPoint. So I'm opening up this internet page, and you can see I went to clinicalqreport.com, and we have this web page that talks about this new ClinicalQ Report Writer application. And so I'm going to click on this Create Report, and there's a quick description of generating the data and then uploading it to the website. I'm actually going to click right here to see what it looks like, the section where you enter the data into the website. And oh, well, that's coincidentally lovely. There we go. So on this page, we ask for a bunch of information, but this is information that you already have about the client and that you have already obtained by running that ClinicalQ assessment. So some general information such as, who are you at the clinic, what is your name, and what email address do we want to send the report to, and then ask some general information about this client, so their sex, their age, as well as some medications. The analyzing program that works in this ClinicalQ Report Writer take into account their age and their sex for determining some of the interpretations. So that is important for us to know. In terms of client ID, it's specifically not meant to be their name, because we do not want to know this person's name and we don't want it written down anywhere. This website is meant to be HIPAA compliant, so we have no interest in any possible way of knowing who this person is and having that linked to their brainwave information. Down here are the statistics that we're looking for in terms of the ClinicalQ assessment, and there are normal numbers that you've already recorded. And so, this first one is the percent change, eyes open to eyes closed for alpha. CT3 here is the eyes open theta over beta, and all these are the standard ratios and percent differences that you are already familiar with if you follow Dr. Swingle's method. I've actually already opened up this report and filled in the information as I wanted it. So I'm pretending that I'm the clinician here, and I have a client ID number, so I never put their name in. I have some date and some symptoms and the age of this individual, and I've actually already entered in the information from their key ratios and statistics that we've collected. All I'd have to do to get the final report for this is that just click this Generate Report button right here, and I'll send that information to my email address. Now, one thing to know about this website is that in the beta testing where we've had some clinicians be able to use this, they've often said that they don't want to have to manually enter in all these numbers for ClinicalQ assessment. And so we actually made a way where if you use the BFE's ClinicalQ assessment software, you can automatically send this data to this website in what's called a CSV file. So you can select that CSV file that's on your computer, and it'll automatically just send the ClinicalQ assessment data. So it makes it that much faster instead of having to manually enter these numbers. If you do not use the BFE's ClinicalQ assessment, and maybe you use a ClinicalQ assessment made by a different company or manufacturer using different equipment, that's okay, because we actually give you the exact template on how you can automatically upload this website as well. So this is meant to be open to anyone who follows Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment method. What do some of these actual client summaries look like? So that's an excellent question, and so I have two of these copied out right here. I'm going to open up this client summary that's from a 34-year-old woman. And so much of this report looks quite similar, because we always include some similar types of information, just describing what is the ClinicalQ assessment, what is neurofeedback. Again, the idea is that you can hand this to your client who doesn't really understand what happened, or maybe they forget, and this can be an easy reminder for them. So we have that general information. And then if they scroll down, they actually find specific information according to their assessment and their brain. And so we have site-specific information that interprets the statistics that occurred that were outside of the desired norm according to Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment. So for example, right here we're talking about low alpha at CZ and then elevated theta-beta ratio. And we have this for each site where it talks about anything that was outside of the norm, and it talks about it in a normal, easy to understand way. If by chance they have no problems at some site, it just says, there's no notable remarkable pattern, everything's okay at that site. And at the very end, we have a full clinical summary. So the clinical summary takes into account all the other numbers that were in range or outside of range, and then it gives a simple few paragraphs that just give the summary of this person's particular case. An example of this 34-year-old woman, she is someone who has a lot of emotional stress, and that comes from previous historic traumatic experience. And what this text right here is saying is that it's just describing to her in a way that's easy to understand what the result of her assessment is, and it creates a nice framework for you as a health practitioner or clinician being able to bring her back into the clinic, and to begin the BrainDryvr neurofeedback training and treatment with her or him. And so it's a very excellent report that's tailored specifically to your clients according to their exact brainwave patterns. The information does not include their name at all, so we hide that information, so it's definitely HIPAA compliant, and you can easily have this generated sent directly to your email, and you can print it out and hand it to them. One last remark about this particular report is that we also have a quick bibliography. So in case you're looking for references, some people are more scientifically inclined, or they really do like looking into where this data comes from. You have this list of references back here, and they can go explore that if they'd like to. Just to compare to this one, I'm going to open up another ClinicalQ Report Writer summary. And this one's actually for a 7-year-old boy. That was recorded 2 days ago. And so for this one, again, we have the age of the individual, what sex they are, when it was run, but otherwise we do not have their name on there. And we have a simple introduction to what is neurofeedback, brain driving biofeedback, and this assessment. And then we go to the client-specific information. So at CZ, that's some elevated theta over beta, and that's describing exactly what that means for the individual. And they also had some elevated theta over SMR, and again, it's going into full details of what that means. And then afterwards, it goes and describes the information in relation to the other sites that we looked at. So O1, F3, and F4 again. For this particular client, in the clinical summary, it's giving a synopsis of what all that means, and it just means that this person actually has ADD, ADHD. It's giving interpretation where the brain just has a hard time of activating itself, and so they tend to feel a little bit more tuned out from the world, a little bit daydreamy. And so this gives a very easy and straightforward explanation for that client. And I mean, you can record a ClinicalQ assessment with someone, you can record their data, and you can enter in those numbers to this website in less than 5 minutes and already have the report back with you. So this is something that they can see you for the assessment for the first time, and they can already get this summary of what's going on in their brain in that exact same session. So it provides a really, really great basis for being able to explain to the client what's going on, having them better understand the situation, and having them return for treatment according to whatever their particular case is. So here's pretty much just a synopsis of what I've been saying quite a few times. The ClinicalQ Report Writer gives the clinical summary based on the client-specific case. It only takes a few minutes to generate, and it works for any type of neurofeedback equipment. It's not only thought technology or using the BFE's ClinicalQ BrainDryvr suite, but anyone who follows Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment method can do this. It's actually quite low cost, and I'll explain that in a second. And one new thing is that the new updated ClinicalQ BrainDryvr suite can directly link to the website. So using the BFE suite, it's just that much quicker to automatically send stuff. But like I also mentioned, anyone's software method, regardless of what software or equipment you use, can have a quick, immediate upload to the website as well. So what are the costs for using this particular feature? Well, if you want to just explore it once or use it sparingly from time to time, you can buy a single report for $35 US, but we intentionally want to make this much lower cost so that people can actively use it, and so it's not such a burden for them. And so if you buy reports in bulk, the cost really comes down to about $20 per report. So it makes it very easy to have this quick, simple summary for you and your client available at not much cost at all. And so we're really, really excited to be able to have this new website online and to make this amazing feature available to all of you at such like a nominal and low cost. When we look at the other stuff where people interpret data for you, interpret your reports, I mean, it comes up to like $60, $80, $100 or more US. And so we thought that was a bit crazy, and this has to be more realistic. So clinicians all over the world would be able to use it and not just be priced out of the markets and not being able to take advantage of something that's so good and easy at explaining things to them and to their clients. Do any of you have any questions right now? Because that's pretty much the gist of the website. I'm really excited that we finally have this launched. We've had it out since the ISNR conference back at the end of September, I think. September, October? No, it must be September. Time flies. And we've had plenty of people try it out and use it, and they're all extremely excited and happy with it so far. So we've had some great feedback. I'm super excited. There's a question from Vahid saying, which symptoms is it useful to use for? Well, the ClinicalQ Report Writer just interprets the results from the ClinicalQ assessment that you record with your client, and so it's good with any type of symptoms, actually, as long as the data is recorded correctly from the brain. I think maybe your question is more relative to the ClinicalQ assessment itself. Well, it's as Dr. Swingle would say, it's useful for any brain-based disorder or problem, and so it's obviously excellent at assessing sort of the more popular conditions like ADD, ADHD, inattention, depression, or anxiety. It's definitely very, very useful for trauma release, PTSD, and things like that. I think the only cases where the ClinicalQ assessment is not appropriate or not enough would be for epilepsy, seizures, or people who have had a traumatic brain injury, so they've been hit in the head really hard. For those, Dr. Swingle suggests that you should have the individual take a full QEEG or full brain map, because otherwise those cases are not very useful. I see David has a question. I thought I saw something about heart rate variability biofeedback in the 7-year-old report. Does the new suite feature heart rate variability or heart rate measurements and integrate the results? David, the new suite does not feature the inclusion of heart rate variability. In the actual report itself, and let me just go back to show this, the actual report itself, it has a mention of just neurofeedback and biofeedback in general, as in what is this? And so I think you saw the mention right there. Let me scroll back up to what I think you saw. And that'll be right here in this section, where it's neurofeedback, brain driving, and biofeedback. So this is just like the sort of generic description of what is neurofeedback and biofeedback. And I can see right here, there's the HRV description right there. In some of the interpretations, I mean, if the individual has anxiety, I already know that HRV is also a really good method that you can combine with neurofeedback, but the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite, and by extension, the ClinicalQ Report Writer, does not take that into direct account. So you can combine that using your own preferred method or way of visualizing that information. Vahid has another question. Is this assessment good for sleep problems? It does assess people with sleep issues. We do that. It looks at, I believe it's theta and SMR ratios, as well as some other ones. Dr. Swingle has presented quite a few times on sleep issues using this assessment as well as some other tools. And so, yes, it is good for sleep issues, Vahid. If we don't have any other questions, then I'm going to keep on going. We're going to jump over to actually look at the new update for the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite. Now, if you by chance have questions as we're going along that go back to the original ClinicalQ Report Writer, feel free to ask that, and I'll be happy to let you know. Now, because we're so excited about the launch of this new report writer, for everyone who's actually attending this live session, we're going to be sending you all one free trial. And so if you already follow Dr. Swingle's method, you're going to be able to actually give it a go. Try putting in the numbers, see what it looks like to you. And so if you're watching the session as a recording, I am so sorry, but this is what you get when you attend a live session. We like to reward people who take time out of the day to speak with us. And so we'll send everyone who attended this live session that free trial via email after the session, okay? All right, so for moving on, let's look at this new ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite updates. I'm excited about this update because we've had a chance to look at a few things. Just so you know, the update is not as of today. We will be releasing it in about 2 weeks, and everyone who has previously purchased the BFE's ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite will be notified by email. The reason that I'm waiting 2 weeks is because I'm still having 1 or 2 beta testers get me back their feedback, and it's always fun running after people when you want them to give you some information. Here's just a few key points of what has changed in the software, but I'm going to actually jump in and we're going to look at the software together to make it more concrete and better understand. One big thing is that we've revamped the look of the entire software suite. If you are used to already using the old version of the software, you know it's very sort of black, lots of black, and I decided to change that. I want to actually look good. One of the funny things is that when you use software with any client, when they get to see it, if it looks good, they believe in it more. It doesn't even matter what statistics or what method you're using. If it looks nice, they believe it more. And so that was one thing I wanted to change. On a second side, I just wanted to make it look better because I could, and because I wanted to improve how it ran. So that was one big thing we did change. In terms of additions to the software, we have a new ClinicalQ assessment that uses 5 sensors simultaneously. So for those of you who are already familiar with the original software, Dr. Swingle's ClinicalQ assessment method uses 2 EEG sensors, and you sort of record the 5 different sides of the brain one by one, and at one point of the recording you actually use 2 sensors at the same time to record from F3 and F4. Now, we've gotten feedback from a lot of clinicians where they actually have 5 different EEG sensors, and instead of moving the sensor around during the assessment, having to take off the electrode, put it back, having to redo the impedance check, they just wanted to be able to place all the electrodes at the start, and so have that done quickly, and then just record the assessment a little bit faster. And so this is what we made available to everyone, and we'll have a look at that just in a second. We've also modified the ClinicalQ assessment report. So after you run the assessment, we have a special report that analyzes some of those numbers and gives you probes. Again, the ClinicalQ Report Writer makes that even easier, but we've modified some of this Excel just so we've changed the questions to be more appropriate. We've changed the wording. We've also changed the look of it as well. And also importantly, we've had this Excel report linked directly to that website. So if you want to quickly upload data, wasting as minimal time as possible, that's now available. Another key feature is that we've simplified the BrainDryvr training screens. A lot of people gave us some feedback, or flack I was going to say, about the training aspect. They thought there were too many screens, so too many ways of visualizing the feedback for certain statistics. So I've actually removed about 40% of the screens. Still a whole bunch, and there's still a lot of possibilities, but I've made it simpler by taking away some options that I know people were not fans of, and I've modified a lot of the screens that already remain to make them easier to understand, easier to work with, and easier to look at. And so that's something that we'll be looking at again today. Now, there's a few other things that we've changed, but you guys will only hear about that as I go through it. So let's just jump out of this PowerPoint and actually have a look at how it examines now. So I'm going to jump over to my Biograph Infinity program, and it's going to open on up. Well, if my computer decides to listen to me. There we go. Let's go to the quick start. This is generally how I have people initiate any type of ClinicalQ assessment session or harmonic testing session, because it's just the quickest, fastest way to do that. And this is all very familiar and consistent with what it has always been for the last while. So from the left-hand list, you choose your client's name. You'd also add in their name if you want to. And from this upper right-hand list, you choose in the categories your ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr. In this example, I'm using a Procom Infinity encoder equipment set, but if you have the Procom 2, it'll look almost exactly the same. And we have pretty much the exact same listings right here. All of this stuff is still available. You'll notice right here there's the new addition, the ClinicalQ assessment using the 5 EEGs, so those 5 sensors. But otherwise, everything else that you've seen before is still here. So here's the standard ClinicalQ assessment, only using 2 sensors. We have the mini ClinicalQ, and then we have the harmonic testing scripts. In the very beginning, we only had 4 harmonic testing scripts, but we did add these 2 others, I think 1 or 2 years ago, where it would just let people try out multiple harmonics one after another, instead of having to run some of these sessions separately at the same site. And so not much has changed in terms of what you look at here, except for this new 5-sensor ClinicalQ assessment. The update, when you all get it, it installs into your computer, and it will automatically have this quick start section linked to those new files. If you are one of those clever people who modified our software to better suit what you want, don't worry, I'm not deleting any of those files. So I'm very careful in thinking about how we create software, and so we made sure that our new files are completely separate from the old files. Just within this quick start, it's going to link to the new files. If you still want to use your older files, all you have to do is go to Start Script Session, and you'll be able to find them in there. And so whatever you may have modified or changed on your own will still be saved, still protected. We just are making it easier to choose the new stuff first. I'm actually going to jump to the database because I just want to replay a quick session, or at least show you what the new look of these assessments are. Right here, I'm going to replay the normal ClinicalQ assessment that only uses 2 sensors. I'm only going to do this for about 30 seconds, so don't worry. So I'm going to hit replay, and you're going to see that it looks a little bit different. We have a new different beginning to open up that screen of what people can see and what reminds them to do an impedance check. And the general look of it also looks, I would say, a lot nicer. If you remember before, it was much more black, and now we have a little bit more flavor and a little bit more simplification. Originally, this screen used to show an extra set of line graphs for a second sensor that was not useful during this initial recording at the CZ site. We've removed that, and those second set of line graphs only appear when it's pertinent or useful for us and our activity. The duration of the assessment remains the same. The activities remain the same. When you go eyes open to eyes closed, when you have the cognitive task, when you have the harmonic task, it's all the exact same order. And we have the same simple, we've updated these instructions at the top, so it should be a little bit more clear on what the person is supposed to be doing and when that change in activity occurs. If I were to jump forward to maybe the F3, F4 part of the assessment, you have reminders exactly where you're placing these electrodes, and we have instructions telling you what to do. And we notice the screen does change, so I was initially showing you the first part where we're only looking at one site. Now we're looking at these two sites, and so you see the screen has changed to show that stuff. It's meant to be very clear, or much clearer than it was before, and also just easy to look at and easy to follow. So I'm just going to show you what the new ClinicalQ assessment that uses 5 sensors at the same time looks like. I mean, we have the same general feel. It's just that you get to look at 5 sensors simultaneously. One thing to keep in mind is that because we can record data from 5 sites simultaneously, it means that the ClinicalQ assessment that uses those 5 sensors is slightly shorter. So the normal ClinicalQ assessment is 5 minutes and 20 seconds. The one that uses 5 sensors is now 3 minutes and 25 seconds. It's like almost a 2-minute difference. Is it that big of a difference? Not really, but it's always nice to let you know that it's going to take less amount of time. Ooh, thank you, Nancy. Nancy had a nice little comment saying she likes the look of the new screens. All right, so let me just do a quick replay of this so you can see what that looks like. And so again, big introductory screen reminding you where you're placing these electrodes. And if I hit the play button, it is a lot of information at once, but since we are recording this data all at the same time, we do have to have all these line graphs available. So you get your raw EEGs for each sensor at each active site, and we remind you where those are. And then we have some simple little artifact monitoring graphs on the right-hand side. And so looking at 5 sensors worth of information can be complicated, but I have made it as easy as possible in this, and so I'm really happy with that. I'm just going to speed up this replay. And so pretty much it looks exactly like this the entire time of the assessment, since, again, all the sensors are being recorded simultaneously. So it's very straightforward. The activity order is a little bit different. If you remember in the normal assessment, you record from CZ and you have to do eyes open, eyes closed, eyes open. Then you record from O1 where you do eyes open, eyes closed, and eyes open. We've obviously put those together, so it's simplified, it's easier to go, but you have these instructions that let you know exactly what's going on for each moment. Okay, so I'm just going to close this as well. And how about I show you what the new, actually, let me just open up one of these in terms of review mode. I'm not going to go into much details, but let's take the artifact rejection screen we have there. Again, it has a nice new clean look for artifact rejection. It's much simpler. We used to have a lot of different numbers written here. Those numbers were not useful. They confused people. It was not good. So simple artifact rejection. Artifact rejection is done the same way as it's done before. I'm not going to describe that to you all because you either know it or you can get some online lesson from us that explain that. I'm going to go with this little printer icon to generate the new Excel report. And so click that. The computer's going to think for a moment. It's going to open up this new report. And here's the new report. It looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit cleaner. It's actually, I think, much better. It looks more professional in terms of what people are used to looking at in terms of these types of reports. The majority of these statistics have remained exactly the same. There's 1 or 2 changes, which I'm actually not going to point out to you guys yet because it's not included on this specific report. But otherwise, most of it has remained the same. Some of the wording is different. It's meant to be easier for people to understand, and we're happy with that. Towards the bottom, we have a quick reminder that you can use the ClinicalQ Report Writer, and here's the link to that site. One thing I do want to point out to you is, like I said, we've made this report easily linkable to the site, so it's fast and easy to share the results of these numbers with that report site in order to get your clinical summary that you can hand back to the client. How does that work, that very simple link? Well, let me just get these files out of the way. If I go to this BFE Suites shortcut, which you all have after you install the ClinicalQ BrainDryvr suite, if I open this up, you're going to see a ClinicalQ Report Writer CVS files folder. And here are these little files that explain the ClinicalQ assessment results to the website in a really fast, easy manner. If I were to go back to the website, all I have to do is go right here, browse, and then go locate that specific CVS file that I have for this session. And so I'd be able to go open that up, and it would upload the numbers for me, and then I'd be able to transfer the data and just generate the report straight away. I don't have to bother filling in any of these boxes because the system will do it for me. Now, these little ClinicalQ Report Writer CVS files, How are they made? Well, every time you generate the Excel report, it automatically makes one for you. So it's all automatically done. It's really simple and easy and fast, and that's what I wanted. Again, if you do not use Thought Technology equipment or the BFE's ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite to record your ClinicalQ assessments, that's okay. We've included on the website an exact explanation right here of how you can create your own little CSV file to automatically up to this website. So it's really open to anyone to use. I'm just streamlining it for our users because I can. Okay, so let's just close this. Just make sure in my notes I don't have anything else. Yes, this report is also kind of an easy to print issue. So we did get comments from people how in the previous version of this report there are different colors, and when they tried to print it in black and white, the colors went off a little bit. Don't worry, we fixed that. It's now just going to go to all white with the exception of these numbers that will be identified. And so it's going to be printer friendly for those who want to save on that printer ink, because no one wants to spend money on printer ink. Oof, much, much too expensive. Okay, now for the harmonic testing scripts, they have remained the same. We didn't really have much of a need to change them in terms of how they work and what information is shown. They obviously look a little bit nicer. So let me just show this Serene harmonic testing effective harmonic script. I'm just going to replay that. So nice little open screen for Serene. We have a quick explanation of how to put the speakers adjacent for a person to make sure you have good sound quality. And then the recording screen looks almost exactly like the original ClinicalQ assessment recording screen. So we've made it consistent and easy to follow. The only thing that really changes between these different harmonic testing scripts is the colors on the side, just because everyone likes using different colors. So it's very, very easy and straightforward to understand. As an example, I guess I'll show you what how about this, the sweep harmonic, testing harmonic looks like. So I'll replay that. It's essentially just slightly different colors. And because sweep uses two sensors, we have two sets of line graphs. So very consistent look, so it's easy for you as a clinician and for your therapists and technicians to make use of this, because it always looks the same and it's not going to change that much. In case some of you never saw it before, the harmonic testing script that was added a year or two ago is the Omni, Serene, Mozart script. Essentially, it lets us examine how the brain reacts to those three different harmonics when having them played one after another. It itself looks pretty much just like the other harmonic testing scripts. It's just that it kind of changes colors as we go along. So it starts with Mozart in yellow, and then it jumps up to, oh wait, sorry, that's Omni in yellow, my mistake. Then it jumps to Serene, which is, yay, purple. And then it jumps to Mozart, which is red. Nice and easy and simple to use. Some people, for reasons I'm not really sure, never realized that these harmonic testing scripts also have Excel reports, because I wanted to help you out in terms of interpreting the results to know exactly what volume level worked best for the client. And so you can generate those reports the exact same way. Generate Excel, and then that'll bring up that Excel report. Now, this looks a little bit old. This is going to be changed too. This is one of the last things that have not been altered by the staff that I'm guiding. And so this will have the same new look as the full ClinicalQ assessment report. In case you didn't see this before, it's just showing us the different bandwidth amplitudes, and we get to see exactly what volume of the harmonic had the best effect to either increase the amplitude or decrease the amplitude of whichever bandwidth or ratio you want to look at. Now, last thing I haven't quite mentioned yet would be the BrainDryvr training screens. To initiate the BrainDryvr training screens, it's the same general method. We go to Start Open Display Session, and you choose your client name in the left-hand list, and then go to Define New Session. And then in the next window, you choose the correct channel set. Now, you can see right here, I've already simplified it to only show the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite channel sets. The old version of the suite has, for training, is called PI or P2 2EG, ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr training. The new version that gets downloaded does not replace the old one, because again, I do not want to replace any software you may have edited or changed on your own to be better. Just in the new one, it's now called version 2. So it's, for me, it's straightforward. It's just version 2 compared to version 1. And in here we have the new types of screens and the new look for them. Like I said before, we have cut back on the number of screens. There's still a whole bunch, but we've deleted about 40% of them, and the ones that are remaining are much easier to understand, and they're structured in a much more straightforward manner. I'm actually going to show you a few just so we get a quick feel of what that looks like. So let me go back to database so I can quickly replay some data. And let me choose this training session right here. So replay. I've already chosen a few different training screens. One of these is a 2-monitor screen. Unfortunately, I don't have 2 monitors with me right now, so it's not really going to look right, but still, I'll keep it included. A big thing that people did like was they liked the DVD features, and so obviously that's now possible with every type of training protocol. Whether you're bringing up beta, bring it down, bring up alpha, changing multiple bandwidth amplitudes at the same time, it's all there. We've changed the look of the training screens, so it should be a little bit easier to take in. You always have your raw EEG at the top left. You have quick instructions on what to do to set up the screen. You have your harmonic when it's turning on and off listed right there. We have our artifact detection. And then we have the main bandwidth amplitude that we're training. There's always going to be an arrow pointing up, pointing down that reminds us in what direction we want the signal to go. And then we have our feedback up towards the upper right, and some epoch means in case you want to use those to monitor data. I'm just going to jump over to screen number 2. This particular screen is for beta push, so if you're increasing beta amplitude using the Omni harmonic. If we go to screen number 2, it's the same type of screen, but instead we're using an animation instead of a DVD. And so that's nice and easy to look at. This is my fun little cat animation. I usually have young girls start screaming because they think it's so adorable, and then they sort of get used to it and they stop screaming, and it becomes a little bit better for feedback. As you can see, the look of this is pretty good. I'm going to jump to a different visual display, and we see how it's pretty consistent. Raw EEG at the top. We have arrows that let us know how we're trying to make the training go, and we have the instructions on the side and artifacts. In the old training screens, it was a little bit jumpy. There was a little bit too much variation of how things looked, and people did not like that. So we listened to what people thought, and we made some changes. So now it should be much easier to follow. And I'm very, very excited and happy with that. One of the things people like to complain about, as an aside, is that they always like to complain about the choice of feedback animations. Everyone has a different opinion on what they think is the best, and they always want you to find it for them. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hard to get some good animations. We've found and added a few more in, so people will be excited with that. But there's always an open option because you can add in your own videos and you can add in your own animations. So that's always available to you. There's a quick question coming in from Sylvain, and he's asking, can we have an Excel report to follow our data? If I were to make an Excel report for this suite, it unfortunately would only show data from a single training session. And so I can't automatically assemble data from multiple training sessions yet. I actually have been chatting with someone who is a little bit better at doing this, and we found out, or we think we found out a way to do that. But officially, no, right now we do not have an Excel report that will automatically bring different training sessions together. But there is something in the works in the future. One little comment, or one little thing I want to say going back to animations. Everyone has their own idea of what they think looks best and what should be done. And just so you all know, there's a really cool feature coming up from Thought Technology. And so I'm really excited about that. And it's actually going to get announced at, I believe, Medica, the big European conference that's happening in a week. And I'm pretty sure there's a certain individual, at least 2 individuals right here who, yeah, if I can see their names in the list, who will be seeing Thought Technology there. And so there's a very exciting feature that takes advantage of this DVD where, don't tell anyone I told you guys yet, but the DVD is going to be able to just actually link to any video online from YouTube or any other site. And so you'll be able to stream directly any YouTube video into your feedback system to do feedback with just a YouTube video. And the system will remember these YouTube links, and it's automatically just going to be able to pick them out depending on what you want. So you're not going to have to worry about what animations you want anymore, as long as you know what sort of YouTube video the client wants, or you have the client come in with their own YouTube video and link. Then you just have to link it, and it takes just a second. So that's coming out in the next year, so you're going to be really excited when that's available. And I know I designed that in the thought process for the new BrainDryvr training screens by having these DVDs all available for that. So just wait for that update, and I'm pretty sure the update's going to be free anyways, and then you'll be able to, use YouTube for any type of feedback. If I jump over to screen number 5, I'm pretty sure this is a dual screen, and so I suspect, I don't have 2 monitors plugged in, unfortunately, so this is being crunched, so this is not appropriate. But if this wasn't squished, you'd be able to see on this side is the feedback animation and 2 simple arrows the client gets to watch to know what they want to bring up and what they want to bring down. And so it's very, very simple and straightforward for the client. And that sort of jumbled mess that used to be in the old BrainDryvr training screens. Daniel just said a comment of streaming DVD from the internet. It's a great feature. I'm really excited about it. It's not only from YouTube that you can use the DVD feature to stream from a website. It's going to be effectively any website that has a video player on it. So if you want to go educational, I know National Geographic has some great videos on their websites. Vimeo has some really good documentaries as well. I'm super excited for the feature. I think it's going to be great. Everyone's going to be excited for it. Okay, I think that's all I had to say for these training screens. So I'm going to close that right there. And from the list of things I have to mention, yes, with the update to this ClinicalQ BrainDryvr suite, obviously the software manual is going to be updated. I'm currently still writing it, and I apologize for all my spelling mistakes that occurred in the previous versions, but spelling in English can be so tiring. And so the software manual will be updated to reflect the new updated software, so that'll be great. You'll be able to look at that. And one other thing, yes, another reminder is that don't worry, all this new stuff, when we install it, it doesn't replace your old stuff. So don't worry about losing the old version of the suite or old data or old sessions. It just coexists with it. It exists next to it, and you still have all the old stuff available. So that's perfectly okay. All right, I think that's about an end to the ClinicalQ Report Writer, introduction of it to you guys, as well as description of an update to the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite. If any of you have any more questions or comments for me, I would be happy to answer those right now. Otherwise, we might have to call this session an end. A quick question from Daniel. Again, repeat, when is the update available? So the update for the ClinicalQ and BrainDryvr suite, it's going to be out in about 2 weeks. We're going to email everyone, and we'll have notifications on our website. And so you'll be notified, hey, here's the link so you can download the new version of the software. For the ClinicalQ Report Writer, it's already up on the website. It's already available. All you have to do is go to clinicalqreport.com, and you can see it right there. The Thought Technology update, I think it's called Bibliography 6.2 is the official name. It's going to be coming out in the next year, and that's the one that's going to suddenly let you link to online videos and just stream them directly into your system. Obviously, you have to have an internet connection to do that, but it's really, really cool, and I'm super excited about those features. Question from Nancy. Will the update include instructions regarding how to do the 5-sensor hookup for the ClinicalQ? Yep. I already have the photos prepped. I already have the description written down, so the software manual will describe everything about using the ClinicalQ assessment if you're using 5 sensors instead of just 2. And so that'll all be written down there, and it'll be hopefully easy to follow. And if it's not easy to follow, well, you can send BFE some emails, and then they're going to yell at me, and I'll probably have to make corrections or meet with you to try to figure out what the problem is. Okay, any other last questions? Again, for those of you who did attend this live session, we will send you 1 free trial of the ClinicalQ Report Writer website. And so you'll be able to try that out yourselves, see what you think. I have no doubt you'll be excited because I think it's really, really cool. And so I hope you will all agree with me. And if you don't, well, I'm going to be real unhappy with you, but it's okay. For those of you who are attending, we're also going to be, we'll be uploading this recording, so you'll be able to see a repeat of this just in case you missed some of the things I said or just wanted to show it to some colleagues. So don't worry about that. We'll let you know when the recording is uploaded, probably in the next few days. So you have that also sent to your emails. All right, let me check. Any last questions? I do not see any last questions, and no one wanted to take advantage of the live talking with me feature, so that's okay. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending this session. I'd like to thank you all for paying attention, hopefully, to this last big thing that I helped to create. So my last baby with the BFE before I've moved on to other things. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are. And we'll go from there. And don't worry, Vahid has one last comment. Please don't forget the free trial. I will not forget the free trial. We'll send those later today or tomorrow when we have the recording uploaded. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day. One last comment from David. Do I still look at the email research@bfe.org? I still look at it sometimes, not as much. David, I think you sent me a question or something like that a few days ago. I'll get to answering that in case I did not. Otherwise, my new email, since I work for Thought Technology now, is johnbale@thoughttechnology.com. John Bale is JONBALE @thoughttechnology.com. All right. Perfect. So everyone have a great day, and we will see you sometime soon, I hope. All right. Bye-bye.